Welcome to the Third Row Tesla podcast. This is Safyan Verval. Today we have a really special guest, so I'm going to go through and introduce all our whole crew. So we've got Viv.
Hey guys.
Awesome. And then we got Omar.
Boom.
And then we got Kristen, K10.
Hi.
And then we got our special guest. So today, no other than Kimbal Musk. How you doing, Kimbal?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me, guys.
Doing well. It was a pleasure. Yeah, great to have you on. So I know we have this amazing promotion going on right now that I just wanted to talk about first, which is your Omaze promotion. So maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that?
You bet. So at omaze.com/Tesla, we have a contest running where people can donate $10 and get a chance to win one of the most beautiful Model Ys out there. It's red with satin black where the chrome would normally be. And it's based off the design that Franz, our chief designer, did for me personally in 2014. We did a Model S red with this matte black everywhere. It's like a gangster Tesla, and we now have it available as a Model Y, and we're doing it as a contest. We hope to raise at least $1 million towards Big Green to connect kids to real food. Right now we're doing Big Green at Home, so it's about related to coronavirus and COVID, where kids are stuck at home and they're planting food with their parents in the backyard, and it's all funded by omaze.com/Tesla.
So what's the cause for Omaze again? What exactly are they using the donations for?
So the recipient of the funds is Big Green. It's a nonprofit that works to connect kids to real food, building learning gardens and schools across the country. Beautiful outdoor classrooms that teach kids science through the growing of food.
So if you want to go to the website, you can either enter for free or make a donation to get multiple entries in the raffle, and one of you guys will win a Model Y, right?
Yeah, it's actually not called a raffle. There's some weird rules around raffles. This is a contest that it's a donation to Big Green, and it's a contest.
And you guys actually gave away your Model 3 before that, didn't you?
That's right. We did my Model 3, and we raised $2.3 million towards supporting kids and real food across America.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, let's
go break that record this time.
Yeah, totally exactly.
Right. Awesome. So Kimbal, it's funny when I see you, the first thing that comes to my mind, I just want to ask you, how excited are you for the future of Tesla?
Well, it is. It is an amazing time for Tesla.
But what about Plant a Seed Day, man?
That's right. You're right. I was wondering if you were going to go there. The future of Tesla is great. Let me tell you about Plant a Seed Day.
When is it again? Next year?
On the first day of spring in 2021, we're going to have Plant a Seed Day. And Stuart Varney, if you're listening, please come plant a seed with me.
Well, he's got to be a fan by now, right?
That's right.
Actually, Kimbal, did you hear that thing that Stuart Varney did on his show this week?
No, what was it?
He basically came out and said, you know what, I was completely wrong about Elon Musk and Tesla. This guy is one of the most important businessmen in the world. It was pretty amazing.
Amazing.
I'm waiting for him to say that about Plant a Seed Day.
That's right. Exactly.
Come on, Varney.
Exactly. I'm so glad to hear that he has come around. That was a crazy time. I mean, we were really fighting for the survival of Tesla, and we had very, very few people on our side. So 2018 was an incredibly challenging year, but we made it through. And now I'm really happy to see that the whole industry is coming around. Almost every car company is producing electric cars. The Model Y has been out now for a month or so, and we just got a review in the Wall Street Journal today, and literally calling it the best car in the world. And I mean, that's just what an extraordinary outcome from just 2 years ago.
Well, it's amazing just how much has changed in the last year. A year ago, I think Tesla's share price was, 180. Most people were saying, the company was done for. 1 year later, it looks like the whole industry is following Tesla's lead.
Right. What's amazing is, even if you were on the inside, there were times where we thought we were we were just not going to make it. It's real credit to the team. My brother, of course, he's an amazing leader, but that team at Tesla just worked so hard, and they did it for the love of the future of an alternative energy future, not for making money, because in those days no one thought their stock would be worth much, or those were dark days, and the team rallied and got through it. It was extraordinary. So I was actually grateful to be able to be more involved. So I'm a board member, but during 2018, I actually was physically in the office and working and helping the team, and I'm really grateful to have been able to be there to see the passion and energy that people were pouring into Tesla. The Tesla team was doing.
Someone actually told me you would help with data labeling on the Autopilot team. Is that true?
On the data labeling on Autopilot team, no.
Someone said you did that once.
I've always been a guinea pig for any of the early access software, and I love doing that. It's always been a fun thing in any company, but especially Tesla. So I always get access to the early software, and it's pretty fun to see and pretty fun to play with. But I'll be quite honest, I don't recall doing data labeling, but I've done so much beta testing that maybe I did, and I should take a little more credit for it.
What's your daily driver though? I know like Elon still loves the Model S. What's your favorite?
Mine is also the Model S. I love their handling. It's a car that was designed and built by hand by Franz and his design team. So it's not a typical. I can't just go buy another Tesla and it'll replace it. I mean, this is a beautiful work of art, and so I love that. I love the S for that reason, but it's also hard for me to even upgrade it to a newer S because it's such a beautiful work of art.
So this is one of your original S, like from the.
No. I have a founder.
Okay.
I have a founder S that I still have. Model number 18, I think, was one of the first.
Wow.
And I still have it. I use it in California it's a rear-wheel drive Tesla Model S. So it's not as good for Colorado. So I leave it in California and I use it when I'm there. My sister drives it regularly. It's still an amazingly good car. And that was in the first few months of building the Model S. I mean, those cars were, they were virtually handmade, and you'd think they wouldn't last this long, and the car drives really well.
I think we might have seen it.
Yeah, I mean it's a very straightforward black Model S. You wouldn't notice.
Tosca
on the back it says if Tosca drives it, it's on the back it says it has founder on it. So that's how you'd know.
So do you have any other cars besides the Model S, or are you just giving them all away?
I am giving cars away in order to support Tesla as well as Big Green. But how can I not buy a car every time we get a new one coming out? So I will have to give them away as we go along.
Have you test drove the new Roadster 2.0?
I have. Oh my God.
Yes.
It's the only car that comes close to it in my driving experience is the McLaren. In terms of
the F1
performance.
The one Elon crashed?
It was the same one Elon crashed. I wouldn't be surprised if Elon basically was saying, we just got to be better than that car, and which, by the way, is probably the top performing car in the world. And I'm sure that was a big motivator for him.
Did he actually restore it before? Did he sell it, or what happened to that car? Do you know?
I don't know the story of where it ended up.
It's a mystery.
I'm pretty sure he sold it, but I really don't know.
Who knows?
So Kimbal, we know a lot about you as a Tesla board member, and your experience with Elon all the way from Zip2 to now. But I was curious if you could talk a little bit about Big Green and the stuff you're doing now, and how having a Tesla helps you, or how it kind of assists you in your day-to-day life. Talking about yourself as a Tesla driver, and how that impacts the work you do.
Sure. Well, we have a long history of using Teslas at Big Green. When we first brought out the Model S, so Big Green builds learning gardens in schools, and we have to bring soil around, and we got to bring seeds around. Not the kind of thing you'd use a Model S for. And so I wanted to test out the lowest priced Tesla that we ever sold. And it was a 2012 Model S with cloth interior, rear wheel drive. And I think it was just over 50K with the rebates. So like a really affordable Model S. Looks exactly like the higher end ones that were more expensive, but didn't even have a GPS. You could, even though the screen was there, the hardware for GPS was not in there. So like literally that level of cheap. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to see what it was like. You know, if someone were to buy a less expensive Model S, what's that experience? It was awesome. It was amazing, and I didn't have a strong use for it because I already had a regular Model S. That I gave it to Big Green to use. And it literally delivered the soil and piping and seeds to all of the learning gardens in Denver for years. And we just retired it about a year ago, and we sold it. I think we sold it on eBay. And we had wrapped it in all of these sort of vegetables. And it was a super cool, fun car. Anyone in Colorado, Boulder, Denver, Colorado would recognize it. It was a white Tesla with vegetables all over it.
So you put it out to pasture.
Yeah, we put it out to pasture. Part of the reason is we have now, a fairly large network of school gardens, and we're now 700 schools around the country, and in Denver almost 100. So we just needed more vehicles, and buying more Model S's didn't really make sense. So I think until the Cybertruck comes out, we went with just regular trucks to go do that kind of work. But the next one we'll get will be the Cybertruck, and it'll just be perfect for all the work we do.
Yeah, I think the robotaxi fleet will come in handy too, right?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, that car, both as a robotaxi or just delivering soil to gardens, is going to be fantastic. In fact, you combine the two together, and maybe that's what you were alluding to. You could have automatic deliveries of soil without even having to send the team out. Which is pretty
even
pretty
vegetables
amazing.
Door to door.
Yeah, totally love it.
So how many are you going to give away though? Cybertrucks.
Well, I'll definitely do a giveaway for for one of the first. So what I do is I get Tesla. I buy one of the Teslas. Big Green, we buy it together. We buy a Tesla that's usually in the single digit VIN number, and then we'll get one of the first Cybertrucks ever made, and we'll give that away, just like we're doing that now with the Model Y. It's so cool to have as a collector's item, one of the first Model Ys ever made.
And I think your Model 3 was VIN 6, right? The blue
That's right.
one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember that. I entered the competition. I was like,
oh, that's so great.
I did too.
It was really cool. It was a Michigan resident. So he almost didn't get it. So it was quite a funny story. So he's a huge fan of Tesla, obviously, and joined the contest. And we reached out to him in Michigan, said, you've won the contest, and we got no response.
Oh no!
And we kept reaching out every day, and it's a 7-day period of outreach before we have to then draw another number and choose someone else. And it was like the last few hours of the 7th day, he sent me a note sent the team a note saying that he was actually driving around the country, and he was on a road trip, and he was in Colorado.
Wow.
No way.
And we're like, okay, wait a minute. So you're in Colorado? All right. So we went and found him somewhere in East Denver, and at a learning garden in East Denver, and we delivered the car just in time for him to get it. And I think he moved to Colorado in the end, and so every now and then he'll come up to me in the street and say hi.
He's like, hey, Colorado's lucky for me. I don't know. I got a free Tesla.
Exactly.
No wrapping in vegetables or anything though, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Oh my God.
Straight up. But it was beautiful. It was blue with a white interior.
Yeah.
Stunning.
It's a great combination.
Stunning.
Love it.
So, Kimbal, I'm kind of curious. A lot of people know you as Elon's brother, but one of the things that struck me when we were talking to Elon, you actually came and sat next to me, and you were telling a little bit about what you remembered about Zip2 and all that. And, I was really struck by how, you've really been with Elon since the beginning, since he came to Silicon Valley. And, you have that experience, working in the technology industry, working on startups. you were really there for a lot of the rise of Silicon Valley and, know a lot about technology. So what made you think, I know your mom told us that you've had a passion for cooking and real food for a while, but what made you want to say, hey, let me focus on Big Green, focusing on real food rather than say, starting another tech company or something like that?
Well, I think the important thing to realize is, when we came to America, I mean, we had nothing. I mean, we'd gone to school on student loans. I had a painting business, so I had about $5,000 to my name, which frankly to me was a lot of money.
You were a painter.
Yeah, house painting, not selling paintings, but house painting.
Okay.
So I ran a business during university that was selling, getting me and my student friends to paint houses, and turns out I was pretty good at running business and being an entrepreneur, and so that part was a good learning. But again, we didn't have any resources, and so for us, the land of opportunity is America, and we were in Canada at the time. And my brother had just transferred to University of Pennsylvania, but we both sort of started out in Canada and went to Silicon Valley. We had this idea to do maps and door-to-door directions on the internet, combine it with the Yellow Pages, and that at the time was a deca-billion-dollar business. And nowadays it's obviously a normal thing. So that's pretty cool that we were one of the first, if not the first, people to see maps and door-to-door directions on the internet. And I just love that, even though the business itself was, even today, maps and door-to-door directions is not really a business. It's kind of an add-on to search. I'm really proud that we were part of it from the beginning. And we had no money, so we slept in the office. We showered at the YMCA. We had we built our own computers. We go buy the parts at Fry's Electronics, a store nearby. And it was the early days. I mean, there was no real belief in the internet. It's hard to believe right now, but back in 1995, no one cared about the internet. They were thinking about package software and really boring stuff that we couldn't believe that they didn't see it. And Netscape went public in, I think, the middle of 1995, and that's when people started to wake up and realize that there was a financial opportunity there. And so by January, we started the company while we were still in school. We were kind of doing it sort of March, April, and then by September, I had to decide whether to move to California. Elon had to decide whether to, not do his PhD in batteries, we just had to make a decision, and it was it was a tough decision. Again, we didn't have any resources, so we said, I think we can do this. Let's start. At the time, as I said, no one wanted to give us any money. So I said, I think I can hire a sales force to go sell Yellow Pages ads. Elon, you build the technology and tie the two together, the business listings with the mapping. And we actually had a little business going. It wasn't a big business. It was just the Bay Area. But it was a business. We had revenue and so forth. And then in January of 1996, we had it was one of our salespeople actually connected us to an angel investor who then connected us to a few venture capital firms. And we had this extraordinary, weird experience of going from, eating at Jack in the Box, or for me to do that's rough, but it was the cheapest place to eat.
The chicken fajita pita.
Oh, exactly. God, I can't remember that. So rough. But that's what we could afford. And then to having multiple venture capitalists saying, we want to give you millions of dollars to build your business. It was surreal, and we ended up getting a great investor partner with More Davidow, and it was a little funny because we had to explain to them that we took the bus to the meeting. We don't have cars. And so they actually gave us a small budget to buy a car each. And then they gave us a salary. We didn't even expect to get a salary. So went from this, we're just going to keep doing this, bootstrap it, figure it out, to having a car and we could get an apartment to rent. It was quite an amazing time. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
You were living in your office before that, right?
We were living in the office from, I think from just till the end of January. So probably from like September to Janury. That's when I was there. I think it might have even been August, from August to January. But it just it's fun. I mean, it also wasn't a lonely experience, because I remember going to Jack in the Box once. It was 4 a.m. and I passed the office of another startup, and there was a guy coding in a sleeping bag, because it's so cold, because all the heating is off at night. And I was like, oh, and I just went and knocked on the door, and I said, hey, I'm going to Jack in the Box. You want to join me? And he became a good friend. And it was like this little, and he was building online bookings for airlines on the internet. And he got funded around the same time as us, and it was this incredible time to be there before people knew what the internet was or appreciated what it would be. We were there, and it was amazing.
So, as one of the first people to get into the internet, why leave and go to Colorado, start Big Green? Why focus on real food instead of, building another website?
Well, I think that, maybe you even just said it, building another website, not that interesting to me. I think it's more about like, what are we trying to do here? So Tesla is trying to move the world to alternative energy. What I do with the restaurants and with Big Green and with Square Roots is about bringing us to a real food future where people know what they're eating, delicious, trusted food, which trust you to nourish your body, to nourish the farmer, to nourish the planet. This is a very important future. In the case of the restaurants, right now we have this extraordinarily difficult time where, because of coronavirus, our restaurants aren't even allowed to open, or if they did open, there'd be a very small amount of people that could eat there. And it's just so sad to me that the gathering place is no longer, it's not even legal. And that's going to be a lot of work to get us out of that. And so I get up in the morning like thinking about that. It's like, that's why I do it. No one gets into the restaurant business to make money. I've always believed in doing what you love, and the money will come. Maybe someday in the restaurant world that'll be the case, but for me it's been a labor of love. But it did start with the restaurants. I now do Big Green and Square Roots as well. But what I did after we sold Zip2 was I went to New York, and my passion was food. I've been cooking for my family since I was 12. And I went to the French Culinary Institute in New York, trained there for 18 months in their full-on career level cooking diploma. And it was tough. I mean, it was like Full Metal Jacket, just screaming at you all day long, telling you you're a worthless piece of shit. And you just can't believe that this is an actual thing, that still exists. But that is actually how people trained in the old days. And
so like Gordon Ramsay on TV, that's
hardcore and meaner than that. And
Wow.
It felt almost coordinated. Like it wasn't just one person coming at you, it was multiple. And it was really about breaking you down. And then once they've broken you down, your will is broken, your previous belief in your knowing how to cook is broken. They then build you up again. And it actually kind of did work. So I don't want to knock it, but I will say it was a tough 18 months.
So you got James Beard actually recognized you too. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's
so
amazing.
We opened well, what happened for me was right after cooking school, I was not planning to do a restaurant. And right before 9/11, I graduated, and 9/11 happened, and I was living downtown, watched the towers fall from our windows, from the window of my apartment. It's just incredible, them burning and awful. Actually, I watched them burning from our window. Then at Canal Street, we just started running. At Canal Street, we saw the first one fall, which you don't, because the buildings are so tall, you don't really see it fall, you feel it. And then you see this giant cloud of white dust coming towards you. And we managed to escape before the dust cloud hit us, but people in the dust cloud their health was probably permanently damaged. And And then by Union Square, when we kept running north, we saw the second one fall, and that's when you could see it from a distance, like literally the World Trade Center is falling, and it's like this. I can even feel it today. This awful feeling of like reality breaking. Like that's just not supposed to happen. It'd be like, I live in Colorado now, it'd be like the mountains collapsing. That's just not supposed to happen. And it was such an incredibly difficult time. But as part of that, I got to cook for the firefighters as a someone with a diploma in cooking, and I lived below the security line. I could cook, and I cooked there every day, 16 hours a day for about 6 weeks, watching. It was amazing. It was to manage to deal with the trauma to do that versus not having anything to do. And so I watched firefighters come out from giant piles of melting metal, still melting weeks after 9/11. And they'd come in and into this gymnasium we'd convert it to an eating area, and we'd feed them real food we'd cook that day, delicious real food, probably some of the best food they've ever had in their lives. They'd walk in just completely broken, dust all over them. They'd take off their external outfits, and they would sit down and they'd wipe their faces, and they'd sit down and have a meal with each other. And you could see them reconnect with each other. You could see them come back to life. And then, 45 minutes later to an hour, they would then put their suits back on. They would go back into those giant piles of melting metal to save another American life. It was just an extraordinary experience for me. And that's what drew me to doing a restaurant. And again, I'm part of these big companies. Restaurants are small businesses. And I was like, it doesn't matter. I need to do this. I can't have that experience and then not go to a restaurant. And so I traveled the country, toured the country to see where it would be a good place to open a restaurant. I'm an immigrant, so I didn't have roots in California or New York. And I was kind of tired of California. I felt like, Silicon Valley in 1995 was not Silicon Valley in 1999 or 2000. It had gone from this scrappy, people coding in sleeping bags, without any real financing, to what turned out to be a gold rush, and there's nothing wrong with that, and good for the folks that want to do that, but that wasn't for me. So I really wanted to look in somewhere in the country that was a better match for me. Found Colorado, found Boulder, and opened the kitchen in 2004. And that's the restaurant that was recognized by James Beard. Still today, it's considered one of the top 100 restaurants in the country. And we are one of the founders of the farm to table movement. It wasn't because we said, we're going to, start some movement around farm to table. It was because the industrial food sucked back in those days. I mean, it still sucks, but you had no access to other kinds of food. If you're in New York City, you get really good quality ingredients, great fish, great vegetables from that area. The local produce is amazing. But in Colorado, there were very few farmers that would work with restaurants. And in most of the country, that was the case. And so when we said, we're going to work with local farmers, and then that sort of morphed into farmers that we know and trust. And sometimes they're not the closest to us, but they're within a few hours drive, and we can go visit them, and we trust their product. That really became a phenomenon. And to this day, unfortunately, we're not closed. We're just doing family meals each night. But pre-COVID, that restaurant was doing as well as ever. And I'm so proud of the team we have there that keeps getting better. We have this philosophy in the restaurant of like continuous improvement. Like, what can we do to make it better? What can we work on to make that flavor just pop a little bit more? What can we do to make the ingredients just a little bit better, either better quality or better for you? And then also, let's have some fun. Food is a creative process. If we're not doing it for the money, let's do it for the fun, and let's do it for the joy. And the joy that we create, not just with the recipes, but also with the guests at tables in our restaurants.
Yeah, it's a really powerful story.
Yeah. Feeding people is such a loving thing.
It really is. I'm a wonderful believer in the future of the world, present and future, we all have a duty to make it a better place. And for me, people gathering and feeding my community and enabling them not just to eat real food, but to connect with each other is a beautiful gift. It's really a gift of joy. And I wake up every morning working hard on like, okay, how do we make this? How do we get it better? And it's an interesting problem because you would think, like let's use Tesla as a great example. You would think that, why is it so hard to? I mean, Tesla right now, you think, they must be cruising because the product is literally considered the best in the world by far. The technology is best in the world by far, and they probably have like the regular things going on to continue to get better, but it shouldn't be that hard. If you want to do something well, it is hard forever. And the reason is not because you cannot rest on your laurels. You can rest on your laurels, but then you will not get better.
So continue to improve. Don't stop.
It's like it's a flywheel. Like if you continue to improve, you get high off those improvements. Like it's a beautiful feeling. And if you stop improving, it kind of drags you down and it becomes inertia. Or what's the term? It's not inertia. It's when everything's sort of, there's a word for it. I know the word very well, but blanking out on it, where everything like just sort of slows down. Something? Entropy, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so continuous improvement is about, keeping that flywheel going. And it's the happy maker, like internally, like everyone is, the juices are flowing and energy's happening. And it's the small wins that you make every week, every day, every 2 weeks that compound. And then eventually you're just really building something great.
So you're very much focused on like sustainability, but unfortunately, there's only like a handful of companies that are as committed to real food, to healthy food, and to next generation farming, like Big Green or The Kitchen are doing and Square Roots. So what do you think needs to happen for the entire food industry to shift from, mostly processed food to sustainable, healthy, and real food?
Well, for the world to move to sustainable, healthy, real food, it's going to take great product. I know this is probably the capitalist in me. It's not government regulations. There are terrible regulations that are so painful because the government just needs to stop punishing farmers for growing real food. Right now, if you want to grow real food, the government removes crop insurance. They make your life really hard. I know anything organic or real food is you literally get punished by the government.
So instead of like Monsanto stuff, or what are the preference?
Yes.
If you grow Monsanto corn, the government will provide massive crop insurance subsidies. They will also buy your product and convert it to ethanol, which is a complete boondoggle for Monsanto. For Monsanto, 40% of our corn is grown for ethanol, which we don't need. No one, not even the oil companies, want it. It's terrible for the environment. It takes a gallon of oil to make a gallon of ethanol. Nothing is good about it, and that is the biggest subsidy we currently provide to Monsanto, which is this ethanol. It's such a disaster, and it's very rare when you get something that both the environmentalists and the oil companies agree is a bad idea. Both environmentalists and oil companies believe ethanol is a bad idea.
And Bayer bought Monsanto, so it's huge.
Bayer is suffering the consequences of that decision. It's a total disaster. And
so it's just the government then that wants it? Or who wants it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of lobbyists. So the lobbyists go to DC and they'll lobby not for Monsanto, of course. They'll lobby for, hey, what about grandma who has this farm in Iowa? If you take away these subsidies, what's she going to do? Where's her pension? And there's truth to that, but don't solve it by spending hundreds of billions of dollars on product we don't need. Just go buy their farm from them if you want, or give them a little extra pension. But there are other ways to solve this problem besides buying more Monsanto crops. Monsanto goes in and uses the heartstrings of that older community, and they're just an evil company, and really, unfortunately, Bayer is now taking that on, and there are fewer more evil business models than what Bayer is doing today.
Wow, I saw you in a helicopter flying over farms because the monopoly on farms right now is crazy. Like from pig farms to dairy.
Yeah, and a lot of that is now being bought up by the Chinese. So there's national security issues there.
Brazil.
Brazil owns our meat supply. I mean, our beef supply. I mean, what the heck? And the founders of the family behind JBS are in jail. They use Brazilian debt that they got through bribes. So the Brazilian government kind of owns JBS, which now, because they put those guys in jail, and that means the Brazilian government owns the American beef supply. I mean, it's so messed up.
So messed up.
So messed up. And there's very little political will to deal with it. And so I continue to focus on, as a capitalist and a believer in the spirit of the individual, to focus on, hey, let's create better products. Let's create delicious real food. Square Roots works with young farmers growing real food in Chicago, Detroit, Michigan, and New York City. The best basil you've ever had. We're now growing arugula. And it's about empowering the next generation of farmers. They work with us for a year at a time, and then they graduate. They move on to other farms. Well, they might actually stay with Square Roots long term if that's their ambition. But it's about creating that next generation of farmers through a delicious and better quality product that is more sustainable, that has less food waste because you're not shipping it from places as far away as China. It's better than organic because there's no such thing as any pesticide at all in what we do. Even in organic food, there is pesticides. We have 0 pesticides. Our farming is done in containers, in old shipping containers. And if we ever have a pest problem, we have something called Mojave mode. So in a traditional, even a plant factory, where these bigger plant factories, if they have a pest problem, they actually do have to use pesticides. But because ours are contained in these containers, we have Mojave mode where we can change the climate of the container. It starts out, when we grow basil, we replicate the climate of Genoa, Italy.
Nice.
And It's the oxygen, the carbon dioxide. What time does the sun come up? What time does the sun set? And it's the month of June. It's the month of June. And then we also looked back over the years and said, which one was the best month of June? And we learned that the summer of 1997 in Genoa, Italy, produced the best basil. And so we replicate that climate, and it produces the most delicious, perfect basil you can imagine.
A circadian rhythm for the plants.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And so when we have an issue, we created a technology called Mojave mode where we turn it into the Mojave Desert. So we go from the climate of Genoa, Italy, which is like 78 degrees and maybe 50% humidity, and then the sun comes up, 14 hours a day, to the Mojave mode where it's sun 18 hours a day and it's 120 degrees and it's 3% humidity. And we keep that going for 4 days and nothing can survive. And so instead of using pesticides, we can use climate control to absolutely manage our pests. And it's really an ingenious system that Tobias Peggs, the CEO, created to grow the best quality food without any pesticides at all.
So we were talking with Everyday Astronaut, and we were saying this is what Kimbal's going to do. He's going to do these shipping containers on Mars. This is what we're going to eat.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask. I'm glad you bring it up.
On that note as well, I'm curious of what your big vision is for the future. I mean, from feeding every single child in the world so there's no starving children, to like being able to eat food on Mars. I mean, what do you sort of see it going? How would you like it to go?
Well, I think what we're doing at Square Roots, my brother and I don't coordinate efforts because that would be too complicated. And Mars is it's only
Mars is
who knows
there.
how far.
Well, you were at the launch. You were at the Crew Dragon launch.
Yes, I was. I was at the launch on Saturday. It was amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that too.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm happy. I'll for sure share some. But when it comes to Square Roots, we're actually doing the right thing for Earth. Like, this is the best product for the farmer, for the for the consumer, for the planet. It really is the best product for Earth. It just happens that the best product for Earth is also how we will most likely grow it in Mars.
Nice.
We probably won't send a shipping container over there, but we can do it. We can do this in a tent.
Right.
It's not that hard. So we do a climate control tent, and we'll be able to grow delicious fresh food on Mars using very much the same approach and technology that we do today.
Very nice.
It's amazing. It'll be Italy on Mars.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Genoa.
Exactly.
Love it. Cool. So tell us, would you like to tell us some more about the Crew Dragon launch? That sounds pretty cool that you were there.
Yeah, that was one of the most special moments of my life. I was in the firing room with Elon and the team, and I was just stepped back. I'm not involved in operations at SpaceX, but because I've been there from the beginning, I'm allowed into that area, and it's just the most incredible place to be, a fly on the wall to watch Elon work and watch him. He's sort of master of ceremonies there with Kiko, who ran that particular launch. And to watch actual people. I mean, you were there in communication with them regularly while they're in the capsule, and it's an actual, two people. I mean, and you just can't believe that it's really happening. It's still surreal to me right now, but at the time you're like, this is actually happening, and it's a tiny little capsule on the top of a Falcon 9, and it's like a 20-story building that has if you were to just scale it down, it's like, imagine a pencil with a little rubber end is the engine, and then the top little black point is the crew. That's sort of at scale is about what you have, and it's just this bizarre thing that's what it takes to launch two people into space. And watching the tears in everyone's eyes and the joy when we managed to succeed in safely getting them into space, getting to the space station, it was truly just tears all around of joy and relief as well that it was safely done.
I mean, they've been working towards this for nearly 20 years.
Nearly 20 years, exactly. The vision has always been Mars. So one of the most important steps to that is actually sending astronauts into space. And it's been almost 19 years. Just amazing.
And SpaceX captured the flag.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people actually really liked your SpaceX blog after the last interview.
Quad rockets.
It's amazing it's still up there, right? I love that. Yeah, it's quajrockets.blogspot.com. kwajrockets.blogspot.com. It's an old blogging platform that Google bought and has never taken it down. I feel like one of you guys has to download it and record it for history because
we should.
Yeah, you need to protect it. It's like people are gonna look back at it and it's like, wow, this is like the beginnings of the company that's gonna launch like people to Mars.
Yeah, that was 2006. That was 2006, and the thing about being a board member, especially in rocket science and in rockets, I'm there to help my brother in any way, but I'm also really curious to be there. But there really isn't anything for me to do, and so I wanted to be there for those first launches. And it's the other side of the world. It's the mid-Pacific, 26 hours of flying, flying commercial, which you fly to the you go to fly to the Marshall Islands, and then you take a hopper, and it's just a weird. It's literally a military base. It's not even a town on an atoll in the middle of the mid-Pacific, and it was just I had nothing else to do, so I started writing this blog. It was just so cool to be the only person with a lot of time on their hands while my brother and his team were working their asses off, and I was able to record a lot of what was going on. It was super cool.
Thank God you were there.
I'm so grateful that I was there.
I love how you guys as a family are so supportive of each other and you're with each other behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so just thinking back, maybe a little further even, I just thought it'd be fun to, I mean, if you had any stories of the family that maybe no one knows, or that you would care to share.
The one that comes to mind was 1994. my brother had a summer job in California, and I had my painting business in Canada, and I was so tired of running my painting business. I was very successful, but I was like just talking about. I just wasn't passionate for that business. So I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, this is a grind, and also when you don't have any money and you have a little bit, you think you've got a ton of money. So I was like, I'm not doing this for the money. Why would I got $5,000. I can do anything. And so I called my brother and I said, I'm thinking of selling my painting business, which usually means just giving it away because you can't really sell this stuff. But it was just I needed my team to have someone to work for afterwards. And he said, he would be up for ending his summer job early. And so we did a road trip from Silicon Valley to Philadelphia. And he had this old beat up BMW from the 70s.
Yeah, the famous BMW.
Like a 320i.
Broken window he fixed himself.
Yes. And
was that the one where the wheel fell off?
That's one where the wheel fell off.
The mark's still there.
Oh my God.
A couple months before we got funded, the wheel fell off on El Camino and Page Mill Road in that intersection, and I think there's still a carve, like a carve in the road from driving the car without a wheel on it to the side of the road. I remember we were going through Needles, California, which is I think the hottest place in America. And it was 120 degrees at night. And this car, I was so crazy. This car was a totally old, falling apart car that if you put the AC on, it would overheat the engine.
So
we couldn't put the AC on. So we had to run with the windows open and the heat blaring at us.
Yes, I've had to do that.
It was brutal. And then it was 120 degrees outside. So we're like in a sweat lodge, driving our way through Needles, California. We stop in at the Carl's Jr. just to sit in air conditioning for an hour. And then we get back in the car and we keep going. But we managed to take that car all the way to Philadelphia. It was one of the greatest. I think we probably took a month to do the road trip. Not intentionally, the car kept breaking down. So we had two nights in Colorado Springs. It's not really the place you'd really want to spend 2 nights, but the car broke down. That's where they broke down, and so that's where we stayed. We had another breakdown in Rapid City, South Dakota. We were about an hour outside of Rapid City, South Dakota. Remember, this is before cell phones, right? So we had no phones. No one is this is the Badlands of South Dakota. No one is there. And so we break down and we had a blanket with us. We sleep in the car with a blanket over our heads because it was so cold.
Oh man.
And then at 6, 7 in the morning, a trucker came by and said he'd, stop at Rapid City and send a tow truck for us. And so we got a tow truck, and then we ended up spending 2 days in Rapid City while they fixed some other problem with the car. And we just kept doing that all the way through. And I think it was probably a few weeks of traveling.
Wow.
But it was for us, we love America. For us as immigrants, this is the greatest country in the world, and we got to experience it, in kind of a random way by wherever the car broke down is where we'd spend time, and we got to know some pretty random parts of the country.
And now you've got Teslas with autopilot.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It must have been quite a bonding experience, though, for you guys.
Anything to make sure we don't have to go through that again.
Yeah.
I mean, it must be kind of weird for you. You've grown up with Elon. He's your brother. But at the same time, he's launching humans into space, on behalf of the United States of America. Is that kind of...
I mean, it's amazing. We had a little celebratory event, like just a dinner on Saturday night, my toast was not anything deep and special. It was, holy shit, my brother launched people into space.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think I just said that over and over and over again until I was done. My brother has launched people into space. And I was like, cheers. I got nothing else.
That's
So
awesome, man.
true.
Well, one day, hopefully, we can get to Mars. So that'll be the next big mission, right?
Yeah,
Or
that
eventually
is.
mission.
I mean, we have many missions in front of us,
Yeah.
but that actually is the original mission, and that is the one that my brother wants to do in his lifetime, which is to colonize another planet. You know, it's pretty amazing.
Are you going to go with him to Mars?
Oh, am I going to go with Mars? He might convince me to go with him to Mars, but I will say that's not really on my list. I want to do a trip around the moon.
Don't let him hear that.
take a flight and go around the moon and then come back to Earth.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, SpaceX is doing something like that, right? Dear Moon is essentially the mission you just described, like the Dear Moon mission.
Well, the moon mission. Yeah, there's someone who's already booked a flight to do that.
You can't go shotgun?
No, exactly. Hey, if there's an extra seat,
Just hang out.
there probably will be one on the test flight, but I might wait a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, I think that that would be something that would be pretty amazing.
I don't know, Kimbal, you said you're the guinea pigs in a lot of these things. So.
You know, I have to live up to that, so you're probably right.
You said that you and Elon don't really, coordinate about Big Green and your restaurants or stuff. But when we talked to Tuska, she mentioned how Elon gave her some advice about, passion flicks. Do you ever, talk to him about the restaurants or your business or?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, to be clear, we give each other advice all the time. I mean, it's a wonderful relationship. I meant more. We don't coordinate the technology. I'm not like building stuff for the Mars mission.
So I was just curious, like what kind of advice he's given you for your restaurant business or Big Green or anything like that. Because it was kind of interesting what he told Tuska.
I think one of the greatest lessons I've learned recently from my brother is this concept of getting used to losing. It sounds weird. It sounds like my brother wins all the time, but he loses 20 battles a day, but he might win 22. And if you lose and you kind of get disheartened by it, then you kind of lose energy and you can't actually focus on the wins. And that was a lesson he gave me. We spent a lot of time figuring out this restaurant world of what's the future. I mean, it's honestly, the industry it's like a nuclear bomb has just gone off in the industry, and you got to understand that every day is going to be a lot of challenges that are essentially losses. Like, oh, okay, that didn't work, and you can go into despair around it. It's okay to go around to despair around it, but know that the way out of despair is to continue to work on things and then have enough positive things, and then there's a balance that goes on, and you win if you, on balance, have more wins than losses, more wins than losses, and but if you get disheartened by the losses, then you just don't even get to go to the wins. And so that was a lesson or a piece of advice that he gave me during this crisis was, this is going to be a tough run. And
With COVID, you mean?
Yeah, with COVID, exactly. And losing is okay as long as you don't take it too seriously and keep going. And then do I think restaurants are going to exist in this world? Yes, I will. When will they come back, and when will people be using them regularly? Well, I don't know how long that will be. That might be a while. But every day there's going to be wins and there's going to be losses, and we're going to get there.
So it's the old adage of get back on the horse if you got back.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys have even innovated with a delivery system you made yourselves, right? So you can actually...
We do it's called Next Door On Demand. And using your iPhone, you can sit at the table, order your food, pay for it without interacting with a server. It's the safest. We actually designed it for our servers so that it's they don't have to pass credit cards back and forth with 100 guests a day.
That's awesome.
Guests themselves, I think, are pretty safe, but even for the guests, they would prefer that as well. And so Nextdoor On Demand enables you to order your food either takeout, delivery, or at your table in the restaurant and manage your entire check through your experience there.
Nice. And I saw that you guys were doing outdoor sitting areas, right? That's
Yes.
kind of a bigger thing now. And I love it because it's summertime and people love to be out and about.
Yeah, I got to give credit to the governor of Colorado for that. He really pushed that hard. He told us that he was going to change the rules so we could do that. and those are hard rules to change. They're all liquor license laws, and he changed them. So not forever, but for a period of time. So for this summer in Boulder, at least, we'll be able to be outdoors, and hopefully Denver and our other Colorado restaurants as well.
Yeah. So switching gears, just one thing that I wanted to ask. I know it's a little bit controversial in the media right now, but I know you tweeted a lot about the Black Lives Matter, and I just want to sort of get your thoughts on that and how it ties into everything you're doing, and the importance in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in South Africa, part of participating in the anti-apartheid protests, and it was a tough time. I mean, very heavy, very difficult. I'm a white person, so people don't really understand how South Africa was. It was the Afrikaner government that was the apartheid government. The English folks were white, but they definitely benefited from apartheid in the sense that we were in these segregated neighborhoods, but we were really enemies of the government as well. And then there were 27 black tribes, and there's a lot of infighting there as well. And so the protests were very mixed. Even though to an American you'd see 3 black people, if you're a South African you'd see a Zulu and a Xhosa and a Swahili or whatever. Sotho was another big one, and the fact that they were all in the room was very powerful because they were all of different backgrounds and different cultures and different tribes. And that's what the protests became, with this melting pot of South Africans, some Afrikaners as well, but so it was white people as well as black people. And it started in 1976 in real earnest, very violently. And that did not work. The violence did not work. It enabled and empowered the government to crack down on it. But by the time I was, I think I was 14 when I started to get involved, so that's 1986. The protests were very peaceful, but the other thing that they were very consistent. It wasn't like 10 days of crazy violence and anger. It was every single day of the week, every weekend, every day of that weekend, every part of that day, there was a protest going on somewhere, and it was always peaceful, and it turned into musical protests. So South Africa didn't have any famous musicians. Well, we had wonderful musicians, but they weren't famous. And they would just play in the middle of these protests. And it became just the social life of what do you do. And there was some violence. To be honest, it was pretty rough. But the nature of the protest was peaceful, specifically as it related to the police. Because the police had carte blanche to do whatever they want. They didn't have there was no video cameras. There was even if there were video cameras, they could probably do whatever they want. And so it was a strong, concerted effort to be peaceful, very specifically peaceful when the police were there. The police were absolutely the enemy, but they were the enemy that could use machine guns if they wanted to. And so the fear we had for them was very high, but we intentionally, we knew that if it was peaceful, it would be fine. As soon as it became non-peaceful, you need to get the hell out of there really quickly. So it's really both a combination of peaceful as well as consistent protest that'll make real change over time.
Did you say the Hutu and the Tutsis were down there? Is that what were some of the tribes?
No, Sotho is a tribe.
Okay.
Yeah, Sotho.
Do you speak any of those languages?
I mean, I did speak a little Zulu growing up, but I'll tell you, bicycle means baisikele, but that's about all I can remember. And then Spider-Man means Rabubi, because I love Spider-Man, and it only played in Zulu.
Nice.
That's awesome. So, Kimbal, how are you doing on time?
I think it's probably a good time to wrap up.
Okay.
But I've really enjoyed my time with you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, likewise. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can do it again. Maybe around a bonfire or something when COVID lifts with Elon and May and Tosco.
Anything that is a gathering of people. You come eat at my restaurants.
Yeah.
I'll even buy you dinner. Come on out and we'll do another podcast. We'll talk about Tesla. Don't forget omaze.com/Tesla. and
won't
you can
forget.
join the contest and potentially win a Model Y.
Yeah, you're gonna find the link in the description.
Break some records, people.
Over 2 million. Let's go for 3 million
Let's
or
do
more.
it. Exactly.
All right. Third Row Tesla signing off, guys. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.